This next period of instruction is Reserve Ground MOS and Unit Assignment Process. This is unique for reserve officers because the MOS and unit assignment is a simultaneous process, unlike the active component, and applies to reserve students attending the basic officer course. During this period of instruction, we will delineate the different methods of assignment, define a flex versus a GO contract, discuss priorities, the MOS options available to reserve officers during the basic officer course, discuss incentives, including the officer accession incentive and IDT travel reimbursement, and finally, we will transition to discuss the Professional Development Tour program. The unit assignment and MOS selection process begins with the member's service agreement, which in most cases the member completed with their OSO. This service agreement can be located in the member's official military personnel file. By logging in to Marine Online, refer to the OMPF tab on the right-hand side and enter your OMPF. You can locate your service agreement within the Service tab. This document includes a city and state, which will serve as the epicenter whether the member is a GO or a flex contract for MOS and unit assignment. This city and state can be changed prior to this process. This service agreement also includes a paragraph that the member may or may not have already initialed, delineating whether they are a flex or a GO contract. Don't worry, you still have time to do so prior to the assignment process. This process balances the needs of the Marine Corps, whether the individual is a GO or a flex contract, will identify billets by location, but most importantly, uses the member's TBS performance, lastly, their MOS preferences. The MOS assignment factors can be found in the TBS MOS Assignment Handbook. You'll notice in this depiction, the flex assignment priorities are identical for reserve officers as active component officers, beginning with quality distribution, student suitability, unique or additional considerations such as education, prior enlisted MOS, or civilian work experience. Lastly, student preference. You'll note that a GO assignment priorities are slightly different. The unique considerations become the highest priority, including the home city and state, followed by quality distribution, student suitability, and lastly, student preference. There are two methods for assignment for reserve officers. The first is a flex contract, whereby the officer waives the geographic limitation. The member must initial the paragraph on their service agreement to become a flex contract. The benefit in doing so is that this increases the MOS options during the assignment process for this member. However, the risk is increased travel to a unit that could be potentially far from the individual's city and state. If the Marine does not choose to waive this geographic limitation, the Marine remains a GO contract, whereby location is priority and the member is assigned to a unit and MOS within 150 miles from the individual's city and state listed on the service agreement. These are the MOS options available to a reserve officer. You'll note that there are several MOSs not listed, including Cyber, Comptroller, Stratcom, JAG, LAD, and the Aviation MOSs. You will also notice that 0303 Light Armor Reconnaissance Officer is listed here. An 0302 Infantry Officer assigned to a 4th Light Armor Reconnaissance Battalion unit will complete LAV Leaders Course following Infantry Officer Course and depart the initial active duty training as an 0303. Let's look at an example of this process using pictures and colors, which we know all Marines love. First, a GEO contract. In this example, the member on their service agreement lists New York City as their home. A 150-mile ring is drawn around the member's city and state, identifying the cities by unit, and the MOS is available. This list is provided to the BOC company staff to evaluate against the Marines' performance, suitability, needs of the Marine Corps, and lastly, MOS preference. Now let's look at a flex contract. In this example, with a Marine from Kansas City, if the Marine was a GEO contract, the member would have 3 MOS options available to them. However, the member is not a GEO contract. The Marine is a flex contract, making any unit across the United States assignable. Once again, the member on their service agreement lists Kansas City, Missouri as their home. The Marine is interested in becoming a communications officer. This is also one of the many needs of the Marine Corps. Therefore, all assignable options for units are identified amongst the BOC staff and the program manager. Now the unit must be assigned, and in the best interest of the Marine and based on the needs of the Marine Corps, the list is reduced, starting with the locations that are furthest from the Marine's home. The remaining sites that are listed are within the Marine's time zone, including Headquarters and Service Company, 2nd Battalion, 24th Marines, Headquarters and Service Company, 1st Battalion, 23rd Marines, and Marine Force Reserve Headquarters in New Orleans, Louisiana. The latter is probably not the best place for a junior communications officer, where they should be obtaining tactical level communications experience like their active component counterparts. Therefore, New Orleans is removed from the list. In hopes of assigning this Marine as close to home as possible, Houston is removed and the Marine is assigned to Chicago, Illinois. Let's look at another example. Once again, this service member is from New York City, New York, and is interested in becoming an infantry officer. As an infantry officer, this member has various options for assignment across the country. However, according to the Marine's preferences and based on the needs of the Marine Corps, this Marine is going to be assigned the 0203 Ground Intelligence MOS and has 2 options for a unit assignment: 23rd Marine Regiment in San Francisco or 4th Assault Amphibious Battalion in Tampa, Florida. In the best interest of the Marine, to support future travel against their civilian obligations, the BOC company staff and program manager recommend assignment to the unit in Tampa, Florida. Assignment priorities. Proximity, regardless of unit, whether the Marine is a GEO or a flex contract, is a priority. If there are 2 units equidistant from the member's home city and state in the same MOS, and 1 unit is identified for future activation or deployment, the priority will be with the activating unit. If there are 2 units equidistant from the member's home city and state, and there are more vacancies at 1 unit than the other, the priority will go to the unit with the greater need. Let's look at some incentives that you should be aware of. The Officer Accession Incentive, or OAI, and IDT Travel Reimbursement, which we will discuss in detail. The third, which you should know about, that can be discussed upon arrival to your reserve unit, is unit-funded lodging for reservists who live 50 miles away from their assigned unit or more. This is available to reservists regardless of their contract and is separate from this assignment process. This program, completed by Marine Forces Reserve and maintained by each individual reserve unit, is a separate process. The Officer Accession Incentive, or OAI, is outlined in an annual MAR Admin. Current guidance can be found in MAR Admin 516/19. This incentive is a $10,000 lump sum payment for 0203 and 0302 MOS assignments upon completion of MOS training. This bonus requires the member to complete several documents prior to graduating the basic officer course and requires the member to elect a flex contract. This incentive is separate from IDT travel reimbursement and any other programs discussed during this brief. Another incentive available to you as a reservist is the IDT travel reimbursement, which is a program that used to not be available to all but only select reserve members. Now, any member that is assigned to a reserve unit 150 miles or more away from their primary residence rates IDT travel reimbursement. Up to $500 per month may be reimbursable for travel, including airfare, lodging, and meals for that member to travel to and from scheduled training. This can be completed through your Unit S1. Transition. We will now discuss the Professional Development Tour Program, which is a voluntary opportunity for one-year orders to the Fleet Marine Force to gain experience as a junior officer. This program is voluntary because the Marine Corps knows that as a reservist, some officers may have elected a reserve contract in lieu of active duty because the member already maintains a civilian career. These orders are separate from the member's current orders for initial active duty training. Therefore, after joining the assigned reserve unit and certifying a primary residence, the member may receive orders in about 30 days to an assigned unit, which is communicated to the member prior to departing TBS. These units are assigned based on needs of the MEF. The member rates PCS orders to that duty location. The member may elect to be assigned to East Coast, West Coast, or OCONUS units, but this is also subject to the needs of the Marine Corps and the member's MOS. The priority is for the Marine to gain tactical level MOS and leadership experience commensurate with active component peers. For additional information about household goods moves, per diem, travel, entitlements, and all other things pertaining to PCS, refer to the Joint Travel Regulation. If the member is interested in bringing dependents along during the 1-year professional development tour, this must be communicated to the program manager and CONUS-based orders will be issued. A list of the references for all topics discussed during this period of instruction are listed. Any additional questions on the topics that have been discussed can be forwarded through the member's staff platoon commander to the program manager or assistant program manager for the Reserve Officer Commissioning Program. Semper Fi.